Hello everyone, I'm Yumu from Susan's family. Today, I will teach you how to crochet this adorable pet sweater, the dog style. For this electronic tutorial and the pattern, you can search for susud.com to access it. This sweater consists of the body, the bodice, the hem, the sleeves, the collar and the decorations. Let's start with the body part. We'll use the chain ring to begin. Crochet back and forth in rounds. Several stitches will be used. All of them are indicated in the pattern, so I won't list them all here. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Let's begin. Take out the corresponding yarn. The yarn for the sample is random. For specific yarn details, color schemes, and crochet hook size, refer to the detail page of our product and the paper pattern. Start by making a slip knot. Then, follow the pattern to work the required number of chains. The number of stitches for this sample is random. After completing, fold the chains. Make sure the right side is facing you. Don't twist the chains. Slip stitch into the top loop of the first chain. Tighten it. The beginning chain ring is now complete. Move on to work the round one. First, chain 1 as the beginning chain for the single crochet. Remember, the beginning chain doesn't count as a single crochet. Work a single crochet into the same stitch of the previous slip stitch. Then, pick up the top loop of the left chains. Work a single crochet in each of them. And by slip stitch into the first single crochet to join. Round 1 is completed. We consider this side with clear texture of the single crochets as the right side of the body to make it more convenient when crocheting. From this slip stitch, count half of the total stitches to the left. Then mark the next stitch with a stitch marker. If you don't have a stitch marker, you can use a safety pin or paper clip instead. Continue to crochet the round 2. Chain 3 as the beginning chain for the double crochet. This counts as one double crochet. It corresponds to the stitch below where the slip stitch worked. This round needs to be crocheted on the wrong side. Turn the fabric. Work a DC2 tog in the left stitches. Yarn over, insert into the left stitch. Mind that when on the wrong side, the stitch is on the upper left. Don't work into the same stitch of the beginning chain. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. First stitch complete. Continue with the second stitch. Yarn over and draw through all remaining loops. The DC2 tog is done. Then work a double crochet into each corresponding stitch. Work all the way until there are 2 stitches left before the stitch marker. When you reach the corresponding stitch, work a DC2 tog. First, work 2 unclosed double crochets into the corresponding stitches. Then yarn over and draw through all loops once. The DC2 tog is complete. Then work 1 double crochet. Move the stitch marker. Work another DC2 tog. Continue working double crochets in each corresponding stitch. Crochet all the way until there are 2 stitches left. Finally, work a DC2 tog. Then move to the beginning chain. Pick up 2 strands of the top chain. Join with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. Now, move on to round 3. Chain 1 to begin. Work this round on the right side. Turn your work. Work a single crochet into the beginning chain from the previous round. Then work single crochets evenly into each corresponding stitch. Be mindful to move the stitch marker accordingly. End with a slip stitch. Round 3 is done. Move on to round 4. Chain 3 to begin. Turn the work. Work a double crochet into each corresponding stitch. End with a slip stitch. Round 4 is now complete. For the following rounds of the body, just follow the same crochet method as the previous rounds. Crochet a round of single crochets evenly on the right side. Crochet a round of double crochets correspondingly on the wrong side. For some rounds, we will decrease stitches on both sides of the beginning chain and the stitch marker. Remember to mark the placements when crocheting. Be careful not to miss the decrease placements. Just follow the pattern to complete the remaining rounds of the body. After completing round 8, you can measure the size. Compare it with the dimensions provided in the pattern. If there's a significant difference, you can adjust your tension and crochet again, so that the finished sweater is the right size. Next, let's learn about the bodices. The bodice is divided into the back bodice and the front bodice. First, work back and forth in rows to create the front bodice. Then, work the left and right shoulders respectively. Here, left and right refer to when the sweater is being worn. After that, work back and forth in rows to create the back bodice. Also crochet the left and right shoulders respectively. We will use DC3 tog and half double crochet. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Continue crocheting the front bodice using the yarn from the body. In this sample, there are fewer stitches and rounds. It mainly for demonstrating the method. To start, you'll need to carry the yarn across. Pull large the loop. Pass the ball of yarn or fabric through the loop. Tighten it. Now, the loop becomes a single strand of yarn. Turn the work. Work the first row of the front bodice on the wrong side. Follow the pattern to skip required number of stitches on the left. In this sample, the number of stitches is random. Join the yarn. Mind to carry the yarn along the fabric. Don't make it too tight or too loose. Then, chain 2. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue following the pattern to work double crochets. At the end, work a DC2 tog. Count the number of the remaining stitches before this left stitch marker. See if it corresponds to the pattern. Row 1 is done. Continue with row 2. Chain 1 to begin. Turn your work. Work single crochets correspondingly. Note that don't work into the last 2 chains from the beginning chain. Row 2 is complete. Move on to the row 3. Chain 2 to begin. Turn the work. The beginning chain correspond to this rightmost single crochet. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue working double crochets into the left stitches. Work a DC2 tog into the last 2 stitches. Row 3 is completed. Follow the same method used in row 2 and row 3, and refer to the pattern to continue. During the process, we will use DC3 tog. I'll demonstrate the crochet method with this sample. Work 3 unclosed double crochets into the corresponding stitches. Yarn over and draw through all loops in once. The DC3 tog is complete. Continue following the pattern to work. Now, I'll demonstrate how to crochet the left and right shoulders. Refer to the pattern. Start with the left shoulder. First, work the required number of single crochets. After completing, carry the yarn across. Move on to crochet the next row. Join the yarn at the required placement. The placement here on the sample is random. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet into the same stitch. Follow with a half double crochet. Then work the required number of double crochets. End with a DC2 tog. Then follow the same method to work back and forth in rows. Carry the yarn across where needed. Finally, fasten off the yarn. Then work on the right shoulder. At the neckline, skip the required number of stitches. The number of stitches on the sample is random. Join the yarn on the left side. Work single crochets correspondingly. Complete this row. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Continue working back and forth. Remember to carry the yarn across at the neckline. Continue decreasing stitches on the left side. Finally, breaking the yarn. Just refer to the pattern to complete this part. That concludes the tutorial for the front bodice. Move on to crochet the back bodice. Join the yarn at the wrong side, and work back and forth. Decrease stitches on both sides in the rows of double crochets. For the last few rows, crochet the left and right shoulders respectively. Then crochet method is similar to the front bodice. Finally, breaking the yarn. Just refer to the pattern to complete this part. Next, join the shoulders on the wrong side. Hook into both stitches of the last row from the front and back bodice. Work single crochets to join. Work chains to space between the single crochets, or you can join it according to your preference. Just ensure the fabric have a neat texture. Let me demonstrate the specific joining method. Use this front bodice as an example. Note: here the left and right refer to the actual left and right when worn. Place the front piece and the back piece with their right side facing each other, with their wrong sides face out. You can start joining from either side. Overlap and align the shoulders. This sample is the back piece, and this is the right front piece. We'll start from this edge and join all the way up to this double crochet. On the back piece, that would be this double crochet. Hook into several strands from both fabric edges. Join the yarn. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet at the joining placement. Followed by 2 or 3 chains. I'm working 3 chains here. Skip a short distance. Continue working a single crochet into several strands at the edge of the fabric. This distance should be roughly the same as the length of these 3 chains. Make sure the fabric doesn't shrink after completing. And when carrying the yarn across, weave in it as you work. Work a single crochet and 2 or 3 chains alternately to joining when you completing this edge. Fasten off the yarn. That concludes the tutorial for the bodices. Next, let's move on to the hem. Work in rounds counterclockwise with single crochets along the beginning chain ring. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with the round one. Here, locate the slip stitch. Join the yarn at the remaining 2 strands of the chain. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet into the same stitch. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Continue working into the remaining 2 strands of the chains. Work single crochets correspondingly. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch to join. Round 1 is complete. Move on to the round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Work single crochets correspondingly. End with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. For the following rounds, follow the same method as in round 2. Since tension varies from person to person, the number of rounds for the hem is just for reference. You can adjust according to your desired size, or you can refer to the pattern for specific measurement. Don't tighten the last slip stitch in the final round. Let me demonstrate how to fasten off invisibly with this sample. Pull large the loop, leave a 10 cm yarn tail, and break the yarn. Thread it into a yarn needle. Pierce into the second stitch from the left side of the slip stitch. Back to the stitch where the yarn tail is, pierce into the braid and one back strand. Adjust it slightly. Fastening off in this way, there is no slip stitch marks on the surface. The texture looks neater. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side along the texture. That concludes our tutorial for the hem. Next, let's learn about the sleeves. There are 2 sleeves. Each sleeve is divided into the sleeve body, the sleeve cap, and the cuff. First, complete the sleeves. Then, join them to the armholes on the bodice. For the sleeve body, begin with the chain ring. Work back and forth in rounds. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Let's begin. The method is the same to the body. It just differ in the number of chains. Here my sample has prepared, but the number of chains is fewer. It's mainly for demonstrating the method. Let's begin the round 1. Chain 3 to begin. It corresponds to the chain where the slip stitch is worked. Then, chain 1 to space. Skip 1 stitch below. Work 1 double crochet into the top loop of the chain. Continue with the chain. Skip 1 stitch below and work a double crochet. Repeat this step to complete this round. When completing the last slip stitch, join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain. You can count from the bottom up. Find the third chain. Then join with a slip stitch. Round 1 is complete. We consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Now, move on to round 2. Chain 3 to begin. Chain 1 to space. Turn the work. Work a double crochet into each double crochet. Work a chain correspond to each chain. Continue this pattern to complete this round. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the beginning chain. Round 2 is completed. From then on, follow the same method to crochet in rounds back and forth. Turn the work after every round. Ensure that the double crochets align vertically. Just follow the pattern to complete the sleeve body, mindful that everyone has different tension. The rounds indicated in the pattern are for reference only. You can crochet until you reach the desired length for the sleeve. End the final round on the wrong side. Just complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeve body. After that, move to the sleeve cap. Start the row 1 by carrying the yarn to the corresponding placement on the right side. Leave an opening for the underarm on the right side. Then decrease stitches on both sides. Remember to carry the yarn across as you crochet. The method is similar to what you did for the shoulders earlier. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. Finally, fasten off the yarn. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeve cap. Lastly, crochet the cuff. Start from the first round of the sleeve. Work single crochets into the chain spaces correspondingly. Work in rounds counterclockwise with single crochets. The method is similar to the hem, just differ in the working placement of round 1. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. That concludes our tutorial for the cuff. Finally, join the sleeve caps to the armholes on the bodice. Join them on the wrong side. Use the same color yarn of either body or sleeve for joining. Match the underarm gap. Also match the middle of the sleeve cap to the shoulder. Secure other sections with several more placements. Then follow the same method for the shoulder to join. Work into the corresponding placements along the edge. Mind to match the fabrics. Ensure the texture looks neat, or you can join according to your preference. That concludes our tutorial for the sleeves. Next, let's learn about the collar. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise around the neckline. You'll need to change colors while crocheting. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Here I will use this sample to demonstrate. On the right side of the bodice, locate the middle stitch on the front bodice. Join the yarn. Chain 1 to begin. Then crochet in rounds with single crochets. Adjust the working placement of the single crochets according to the reality. Make sure you work the single crochets evenly and the fabric looks neat. And make sure the total number of stitches is a multiple of 4. When carrying the yarn across, weave in it as you work. Follow this method to complete this round. End with a slip stitch. Break the yarn. Round 1 is complete. Move on to round 2. Move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Work a single crochet in the same stitch. Skip 1 stitch. Work 5 half double crochets in the same stitch. We'll treat this as a fan pattern. From then on, skip 1 stitch and work single crochet and fan pattern alternately. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch and fasten off. Follow the same method used in the hem to fasten off invisibly. Finally, weave in the yarn end. There we have complete the collar. Lastly, we'll learn about decorations. It's divided into front and back piece decorations and sleeve decorations. The front and back piece decorations include ears, the whites of the eyes, the eyeballs, the eyebrows, the nose tip, the blush, the tongue, the tail, and assembly. Let's start by learning how to make the ears. There are 2 ears in total. Both begin with the foundation chains. Work back and forth along the foundation chains. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crocheting method. Begin with chains. Refer to the pattern for the exact number of chains. Then crochet row 1. Chain 3 to begin. Move to the 5th to last chain. Work a double crochet into its top loop. Then work double crochets correspondingly. Row 1 is complete. Consider this side with the clear texture as the right side of the fabric. That's the side where the yarn tail is on the left. Now, move on to row 2. Chain 3 to begin. Turn the work. These 3 chains correspond to the double crochet below. Work a double crochet in the left stitch. Continue working double crochets correspondingly. Then, in the last double crochet and the beginning chain, work a DC2 tog. Row 2 is complete. Move on to row 3. Chain 3 to begin. Turn the work. These 3 chains correspond to the DC2 tog below. Work double crochets correspondingly in the left stitches. Work a DC2 tog into the last 2 stitches. Don't crochet into the beginning chain from the previous round. Row 3 is complete. For the following rows, continue working back and forth. Decrease stitches at both sides. Don't crochet into all the beginning chains. Refer to the pattern when decreasing in the final few rows. After completing the last DC3 tog, chain 3. Join with a slip stitch in the last stitch. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail for sewing. That concludes our tutorial for the ears. Now, complete the other ear in the same way. Next, we'll learn how to crochet the whites of the eyes. We will begin with the magic ring. Work in rounds counterclockwise. We will use the DC2I1. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Then work the round one. Chain 1 as the beginning chain for the single crochet. Then work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. When done, close the magic ring. Tighten it. And by slip stitching into the first single crochet, tighten it. Round 1 is now complete. We consider this side with the clear texture as the right side. Move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Work a DC2 in 1 into the same stitch of the slip stitch. That means work 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Weave in the yarn end as you go. The SC2 in 1 is complete. Continue working SC2 in 1. Complete this round. End with a slip stitch. Break any excess yarn end. Round 2 is complete. Move on to round 3. Follow the pattern to work. Note not to tighten the final slip stitch. Leave a 30 cm yarn tail, then break the yarn and fasten off. The method to fasten off invisibly is same to the hem. Leave the yarn tail for now. 1 white of eyes is now crocheted. Crochet the other white of eyes in the same way. Next, learn about the eyeball. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. The crochet method is similar to the whites of the eyes. Leave a 20 cm yarn tail. When fasten off, weave in the beginning yarn tail along the texture of the fabric. Refer to the previous demonstration to complete it. Now, let's learn about the eyebrows. Work back and forth along the foundation chains. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Chain 3 to begin. Then, chain 2 more as the beginning chain. Work a half double crochet into the top loop of the third to last chain. Continue with 2 half double crochets and 2 chains. Slip stitch into the same placement. Leave a 20 cm yarn tail, and break the yarn. Secure the beginning yarn tail on the wrong side. That concludes our tutorial for the eyebrows. Next, we'll learn about the nose. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We will use DC2 in 1. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Chain 3 to begin. Work required number of stitches into the magic ring. close the magic ring after completing. Join with a slip stitch in the beginning chains. Round 1 is complete. Move on to round 2. Chain 3 to begin. These 3 chains correspond to the beginning chain below. Work a double crochet into the same placement of the slip stitch. This is a special DC 2-in-1. Continue working DC 2-in-1 in the left stitches. That means work double crochets in the same stitch. This DC 2-in-1 is complete. Continue work DC 2-in-1 correspondingly. End with a slip stitch. Round 2 is complete. Follow the pattern to work the following round 3 to round 4. Don't tighten the final slip stitch in round 4. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail and fasten off. Weave in the beginning yarn tail along the texture of the fabric. And that concludes our tutorial for the nose. Now, let's move on to the nose tip. Begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. We will use SC 3-in-1. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. For beginning and round 1, use the similar crochet method of the whites of the eyes. Follow the pattern to complete this part on your own. Now, I'll demonstrate round 2. Chain 2 to begin. Work a single crochet into the left stitch. Mind, don't work it into the single crochet corresponding to the beginning chain. Work a SC 3-in-1 in the next stitch. That means work 3 single crochets in the same stitch. The SC 3-in-1 is complete. Continue working these 2 stitches alternately. After completing the last single crochet, pull large the loop. Leave a 40 cm yarn tail, then break the yarn. Fasten off invisibly through the second chain on the left. Break the beginning yarn tail. Leave the ending yarn tail for now, and that completes the nose tip. Next, we'll learn about the blush. Begin with the foundation chains. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Begin with required number of chains. Then chain 3 more as the beginning chain. Move to the 4th to last chain. Work 2 double crochets into the top loop. Continue working double crochets into the top loop of the chains. Work 7 double crochets into the last stitch. when you reach the other side. Work double crochets correspondingly into the remaining 2 strands of the chains. Weave in the yarn end as you work. Work 4 double crochets into the beginning chain. And by slip stitch into the beginning chain. Round 1 is complete. Continue working in rounds for the following round 2. End with a slip stitch, but do not tighten it. Leave a 50 cm yarn tail, and fasten off invisibly. Just complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the blush. Next, we'll learn about the tongue. Also begin with the foundation chains, and work around the foundation chains. Please watch me demonstrate the specific crochet method. Begin with required number of chains. Then chain 1 as the beginning chain. Begin from the second to last stitch. Work 3 single crochets correspondingly. Work 3 more single crochets into the last stitch. On the other side, continue with 3 single crochets. Row 1 is completed. We consider the side with the clearer texture as the right side. Now, move on to round 2. Chain 1 to begin. Turn the work. Work 3 single crochets correspondingly. Followed by 3 SC2-in-1. Then, work 2 single crochets. And a SC3-in-1. Along the side, work a single crochet, 2 chains, and another single crochet. Work 1 more SC2-in-1 in the same stitch of the first single crochet. Finally, pull large the loop, leave a 20 cm yarn tail, and fasten off. The tongue is now completed. Next, let's learn about the tail. We will begin with the magic ring. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. The crochet method is similar to the nose. After completing the first 3 rounds, weave in the beginning yarn tail on the wrong side. When crocheting evenly, always keep the right side facing out. Once completing all stitches, leave a long yarn tail for sewing. Just follow the pattern to complete this part. That concludes our tutorial for the tail. Finally, assembly and sew all the parts together. Place the ears with the right side facing up. Sew them onto the sides of the front bodice. The tips should be angled towards the sides. Ensure they are symmetrical on both sides. The sides should be approximately 2.5 centimeters away from the sleeves. You can use stitch markers to secure the placements temporarily. Next, place the nose in the center of the front bodice, with the wrong side facing up. Place the nose tip with the right side facing up. Place it slightly above the center of the nose. Make sure the edge with the yarn tail is on the top. Place the edges with SC3 in 1 corresponding to the both sides and below. Place the tongue with the right side facing up. Place it slightly under the center of the nose. With the tip facing upwards, leave about 0.5 centimeters between the tongue and the nose tip. Symmetrically place the eye whites on both sides, approximately 1 centimeter away from the nose. Make sure the centers of the eye whites and the nose tip are aligned on a line. With the wrong side of the eye whites facing up, also place the eyeballs with the wrong side facing up. Place the eyeballs slightly above the center of the eye whites. Place the blush under the sides of the eyes. With the wrong side of the blush facing up, place the eyebrows with the right side facing up. Place the eyebrows sideways above the center of the eyes and the nose. The placement of decorations varies for different sizes. You can determine the placements according to your preference and the reality. Finally, at the center of the back hem, secure the tail in place. Make sure the beginning section is facing upwards. Fold along the decrease. Tilt the tail towards one side. You can adjust the shape according to your liking. Once the placement is set, use the reserved yarn to sew along the tail's edge. This way, we sew the decorations onto the fabric below. If there are stitches, simply match the corresponding stitch to sew. Do the same for the beginning chains. For the sides, insert into the edge stitch to sew with plain stitches. When sewing the opening of the tail, make sure to insert the needle through corresponding stitches from top to bottom. For the sides, simply sew the strands close to the fabric. Try not to leave obvious sewing marks on the right side. After sewing the nose, don't break the yarn tail. We will use it to embroider lines. Feel free to sew according to your preference. Just make sure the decorations is sewn on neatly. For specific sewing methods, refer to the following demonstration. Here, I'm using a sample to demonstrate. Thread the yarn tail from the corresponding fabric onto the sewing needle. Place it correctly. The placement of this sample is random here. Sew along the stitches of the top fabric piece to the bottom one with plain stitch. Gently tighten it. Try to hide the sewing marks as much as possible. Mindfully adjust the placement while sewing to prevent sewing crooked. Finally, tie off and weave in the ends on the wrong side. That concludes how to sew two fabrics together with plain stitch. After the nose and the tongue are sewn, I'll show you how to embroider the lines under the nose tip. Here I use this sample to demonstrate. The color of yarn is random. When completing the nose tip, thread the yarn tail to the wrong side. Separate two strands of the yarn. Thread these two strands onto a needle. come out from the center below the nose. Insert the needle above the tip of the tongue. Continue embroidering lines from the tip of tongue to the sides. About 1.5 centimeters apart from the middle line to the insertion placements on side. Sew in the middle downward to form a turn. Tie off and weave in the yarn end on the wrong side. The lines under the nose is now embroidered. Lastly, sew the nose onto its corresponding placement. Complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the front and back piece decorations. Moving on to the shoulders. Locate the center of the corresponding cuff. Make decorations for the cuffs. These include the ears, the mouth, the nose, the eyes and the blush. When crocheting the ears, we will use treble crochet. Let me demonstrate the specific crochet method for you. Let's start with the ears. Here I will use this sample to demonstrate. Locate the center placement on the cuff corresponding to the shoulder. In this sample, the placement is random. Join the yarn at the 7th stitch on the right. Begin with 2 chains. Then, pick up the corresponding stitch, and crochet 1 double crochet. Weave in the yarn end as you go. Now, work a treble crochet, yarn over twice. Insert the hook, pull the yarn through, yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat 3 times. Treble crochet completed. Continue with another treble crochet. Chain 3. Slip stitch into the same stitch. Pull tight and fasten off. One ear is now completed. Join the yarn at the 7th stitch on the left. Chain 3. Work a treble crochet into the same stitch. Continue with a treble crochet. A double crochet. 2 chains. And a slip stitch. Fasten off the yarn. Weave in the yarn end on the wrong side. And there, the ears is complete. Now, move on to the nose. Follow the same method used for the eyes. Complete this part on your own. Then, take out the yarn for the nose tip. Here I use the random color for the sample. Separate one strand and thread it onto a thin needle. On the wrong side of the nose. Embroider an inverted triangle slightly above the center. Embroider this inverted triangle all over. Embroider a line of about 0.5 centimeters to both sides at the bottom. Tie a knot on the right side and break the yarn. And there, the mouth and nose are embroidered. Using the yarn for nose to sew the nose between the ears. Approximately 2 rounds away from the edge of the cuff. Complete this part on your own. Next, close to the sides of the nose. Securely attach 2 beads vertically. Place them slightly higher. Go through a few times to secure them well. Then, carry the yarn across through the fabric to the other side. Symmetrically attach the other bead. Finally, tie a knot on the wrong side, and weave in the end. Complete this part on your own. Lastly, apply a little blush under both eyes. You can also apply a little to the ears. Follow the same method for the other sleeve. Make the decorations symmetrically. Just complete this part on your own. That concludes our tutorial for the decorations. Up to this point, our tutorial for this sweater is complete. During the process, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our customer service. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you next time.